What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and if the game is confident, if the game is going to get delayed, if the game is not being talked about because of Dead Space. I want to get down to the roots of this. Last week, we actually talked a little bit about this as well, and I asked the question even on Twitter, and I guess I wasn't all that surprised of how many of the D word. You know, we mentioned the D word, and that's delay, right? It's a scary word. We don't really want it for Jedi Survivor, but a lot of people had brought that up, that at least at the minimum, if we go through February without anything, which I think is a fair assumption, if you go through February without anything, then I doubt the game comes out March 17th. Now, again, there could be other things around it. I'm not trying to put this game down. I'm not trying to say it's going to be delayed. I just kind of want to talk yet again about what's going on with it. So I didn't think of, and people had brought this up to me, so I want to throw this in because I think this is a good theory. Dead Space. Is Dead Space the reason that Jedi Survivor has been talked about? It's actually something I hadn't really thought of, even though the idea of kind of one game at a time, right? Publishers kind of going for one game at a time is not new. Microsoft, Sony, Warner Bros. I talk a lot about how I believe Warner Bros. Definitely with how Gotham Knights went, to then how Hogwarts Legacy went, to then how now Suicide Squad will go. I really believe in that. I really believe that for the most part, you can have games existing at the same time by the same publisher, but you go all in kind of one at a time. And that makes a lot of sense from, you're trying to market the game. You don't want another game from your own, group of studios to detract from it. So when people had started to bring up Dead Space, I honestly think that could be the reason. I really do. So, and here's how we'll know. Dead Space comes out today. And so really, and now I'm not saying Monday you open the floodgates, but I really think obviously next week goes into February. I think you got to do it. And I believe I said this maybe even last week. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm still holding on to that. And I guess now I would say in the next 1 to 2 weeks, I think that would prove the theory that, they're waiting till Dead Space is done. I think that would prove it right. If you go to the middle of February, late February, I don't know, and I brought this up last week, and now I mentioned confidence, and it's something I brought up again last week with something like God of War. It's actually nuts to say out loud that God of War Ragnarok, and I bring up God of War Ragnarok, right, because there was this stigma about the game that they didn't show enough. Now, it turns out, right, and that could be a good example or model for Jedi Survivor, we didn't need to see a lot. And they really never went for it. They never really showed a ton for God of War Ragnarok. And people had suggested, well, maybe the game gets delayed because they're not showing so much. No, they actually just went out, dropped the game. And you know what? Jedi Survivor Respawn, they could be looking at that and saying sequel to a game, just like Ragnarok to God of War. It's a companion-like thing. It's going to feel familiar, but it's also going to be bigger. And we just feel very confident, and we know it's going to sell. I mean, it's going to, oh my God, Jedi Survivor is going to sell a lot, right? So they could just feel immensely confident about the game and say, we don't need a lead up to this game. We're just going to drop it. Again, I really respect if that is the case. And the sad thing is we won't know that's the case until it goes gold, which, it should go gold in mid-February, right? Around a month or so before the game comes out. So we should, again, by the middle, I mentioned the end of February. That's true. If you get into March 1st and they haven't talked about it, I think a delay is totally happening. But then it's you're going to delay a game 2 weeks before it comes out. I really think the middle of February is the final, chapter of this game because the game should go gold. You really should have that kind of push. Maybe some sort of preview event would be taking place, right? That's when all that stuff would happen because, again, I look to how everybody else does it. Jedi Survivor comes out the 17th. Maybe they give it to journalists and influencers and stuff on March 10th, about a week or so before, maybe a little bit more. So, I mean, now you're really looking at March 10th being that's when, that's the cutoff date. So I think we'll find our answer in the next couple of weeks. But it's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked to God of War Ragnarok and said, yep, that's the strategy. That's what we're doing here. But even that, God of War Ragnarok showed more. Jedi Survivor has shown what? The teaser, the actual trailer, and then they did a couple interviews. We got some knowledge of having a blaster, lightsaber, dual wielding, stuff like that. We got a couple tidbits from the game, but overall that's it. And I would say that's probably half of what God of War Ragnarok did. So if that is the new model, which again, that's respectable, and I'll definitely take that as long as I guess we know we're in that era. But even that, Jedi Survivor is actually going even more towards it, where they just are lights out, completely dark, and they'll just let the game speak for itself. Again, that's fine if that's the path. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's Dead Space, and do you think maybe next week or the week after it's full on go? Do you think it's confidence that they just don't care, or do you think that the game is going to get delayed? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, so you know when all these videos go up. I hope to see you all on the next one.